Hello, and welcome to Bitovi Academy's Learn RxJS training. This course covers how to debug RxJS with the tap operator. Specifically, we want to log the emitted values of the cleaned up card number observable. We'll do this by creating a log helper that creates an operator that logs emitted values without creating side effects. This not creating side effects thing is what's really important here. Let's see why. The reason why is RxJS can be tricky to debug. It seems like to log the card number, you should just be able to subscribe to it and output its values. So what I mean by that is I should be able to just go here and find the card number. And if I want to log out what it's doing, I would just subscribe to the card number, pass it a function, and log. Here's the value that was emitted, and I would just log card number and the value. So we'll actually see this works, but this will not work in a more complex application. So here, as I type, we can see the card number is being logged. But as we described in previous exercises, every time you have a subscriber to a simple observable, it actually creates a new execution context, and the values and the transformations that are happening in all simple observables all the way up all the way up the chain, those are recreated and redone, and that might not be what you want. This is because observables, they have state. When you subscribe to an observable, it actually starts doing things. It creates that execution context. So you need to avoid that, and you can't use subscribe. Instead, what you want to do is use the tap operator. But let's see why subscribe more concretely causes problems. So in this example here, I have a random numbers observable that's going to emit 3 random numbers. And what I'm doing is I'm multiplying those numbers times 100 with this operator, and then I'm going to round them with this operator. And then I'm finally I'm subscribing to the end result here and writing out those random integers. So you can see it's 67, 47, 29. Now what you might want to see while you're debugging is what is the floating numbers, right? So like after I created these floats from 0 to 100 by multiplying the source random numbers times 100, maybe I want to see what those floating point random numbers are. And you would think, okay, I'm just going to subscribe to those things. And I'm going to log out the number. So if you do that, you'll see here that the floating point numbers emitted do not match the integer numbers. That's very weird. That's again because the random, every time you subscribe, so the subscription to this observable is it creates a different execution context than the subscription to floats 0 to 100. So by listening to floats, you get one set of random numbers, and by listening to ints, you get another set of random numbers. That's what subscription does. It's like, let's say you could think of a RxJS sequence of piped observables, one flowing into the next, as like a hose. And subscription is like opening up the hose so water can start flowing through it. You don't want to open up another, exit point for that hose. Instead, what you really want to do is paint the hose clear so you can see what's going inside of it, but not actually affect the flow. And this is what the tap operator does for us. So here we've changed that example. So in this example, the first thing you'll notice is that it actually works. We are logging random floating numbers that match their integer So here, 3.37 matches 3.4. That's a good start. So let's see how we actually got this to work. So here we've made a tap operator, passing tap a function that takes an emitted value and then performs some side effect. In this case, it's going to console log float and then the value, the emitted value. I'm calling that log floats, and all I need to do is take what would be the old floats 0 to 100 observable and pipe that again through log floats. So tap is very similar to map. It's not actually doing a mapping, but its signature, it is a operator that takes a function that gets the emitted value. But where map is transforming one observable into another observable, tap is translating one observable into a new observable, but the new observable looks just like the old one. The only difference is that every time the new observable is emitting something, it's also behind the scenes calling this function. So with tap, we can actually create a useful helper function that can log the values of observables quite easy. That's what this is. So this is a log function that'll actually go in the solution to your exercise. That is a function that takes a name of an observable and returns a tap operator that can be passed to pipe. And all it does is whenever the observable emits a value, it just console logs the name and the value. So you can use log simply by calling pipe with the result of log. Now, one important thing to know if you're going to go ahead and start trying to log the card number, when you are calling the tap operator, it has to be on an observable that is subscribed to. So let's say, for instance, instead of setting floats 0 to 100 to the result of using log floats, I was just going to say, hey, floats to 0, you're the result of mapping to times 100. And then I'm just going to later call floats to 0, 0 to 100 log floats. When we do this, nothing's going to log. Well, the integers are still going to log, but no loggings of the floats. And this is because tap doesn't adjust the flow of your hose, if you will. If nothing is drawing water out of your hose, calling tap isn't going to change that. So you always need to make sure that your tap is on an observable that is being subscribed to. So that's why we're actually making the float 0 to 100 is the tapped observable, and it's also an observable that is eventually being subscribed to. So now it works again. And the final thing you need to know before you solve this is that when you do solve it, you're actually going to see card number logged twice. And that's because there are two subscriptions on card number. There's one directly where we're subscribing to card number here, the template is, and there's another one, an indirect one, because the template is listening to card error, but card error is subscribing to card number. So you'll actually see two card numbers written out every time you type. So that's it. That's everything you need to know. Pause the video here and try the exercise, and hopefully you've already solved it now. Let's see the solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this log function that we already gave. I'm going to put that in my helpers up above my component. And then I'm going to simply make sure that that card number is piped through our log helper. And write card number. I'm going to run it, and if I did everything right, as I type, I will see 2 card numbers, but it is working. So hopefully you got this working. This ability to debug will probably help a lot in the next exercise, which is a little bit trickier to solve. So I hope to see you there, and have a good one.